The Jobs and Skills Summit kicks off this week. The coal industry and renewable industries, no doubt in the spotlight. Joining me live is Tony Wolfe, Vice Chair of Gippsland Climate Network, coal worker and renewable energy advocate. Thanks so much for joining us, Tony. How are you?
Good afternoon, Joni. Thank you. Yeah, very well.
Absolute pleasure. Well, let's start off with your work. You've worked in a coal power station in Latrobe Valley in Victoria for more than 40 years, I believe, and you're calling for the government and industry for support in helping workers, young people, retrain to get their jobs in renewable industry. So what has been the feeling, first of all, the general feeling of people having to move out of the coal industry?
Yeah, look, okay, there's been a fair bit of denial up until now, and there's been a bit of pushback. Obviously, we've been able to produce electricity for Victoria and Australia in this way for 100 years, and the community and the workers are very proud of being able to do that in the way that we've done. So to change the industry totally, obviously, is a little bit scary for some people, but it's becoming more and more obvious that coal's on the way out, and there's other technologies that are going to replace it. So it's about getting the workers and the community on board with what's coming along, so that we can start training for those new skills, which we don't have anywhere in Victoria, in Australia at the moment. So it's about training for those new skills and planning for the workforce, so that they can continue and we can maintain our power production role.
And Tony, what kind of jobs do you think could be on offer, and how transferable could some of these jobs be from coal to renewable?
So there's lots of jobs that are currently used in the power generation industry that will be transferable with a little bit of skills training for the new technology, and things like electricians and fitters and boilermakers and engineers and operators, and all of those sorts of skills are going to be required with the new energy roles coming along. We still need to produce electricity and we still need to distribute electricity. It's just the fuel source that's changing. So there's a real opportunity for those workers that want to transfer over into these new industries as they're established.
Change can certainly be unsettling, can't it, in any aspect? It's very common for human beings to not like change, but you're certainly on the Community Advisory Board of the Star of the South offshore wind farm project in Gippsland. It's set to be the first of one to go ahead under the new government plans. How is that going?
Yeah, look, so the Star of the South is the probably the most advanced offshore wind farm in planning phase at the moment. I think we've got somewhere around about 6 offshore wind farms proposed just in Victoria. So and within the Gippsland region, which has traditionally been the home of power generation for Victoria, we have somewhere between $33 and $40 billion worth of renewable projects on the books in some form of planning. Now, to service those projects, we're going to have like a massive skill shortage, I believe. So there's not going to be coal workers sitting around without jobs and trying to find work. We're going to be behind the 8 ball a bit, because we're not going to have enough workers to fill all those positions. So we need to start training now for those. And some of the jobs we don't know what they're going to be yet also. So for the wind industry, for example, we'll need all those jobs that I mentioned before. But it depends on if there's solar farms, there's wind, there's pumped hydro, there's storage, batteries. All of that sort of stuff is going to need skilled workforce, and we currently don't have it. So we need to get in front of it and start training for that.
And how soon do we need to secure the workforce in terms of the global demand? How much are we competing with the rest of the world, and how urgent is it?
Yeah, so there's been a fair bit of talk about skilled migration to fill all of the job vacancies at the moment from the government, and look, the rest of the world is also critically building renewable energy. So there's not going to be skilled workers overseas looking for work. They'll get jobs in their own country. So to rely on it being filled by migrants, I think is a little bit naive. We need to be training our people to take up these roles. There's going to be such a demand for the skills and the infrastructure that goes with it. You know, ships and ports and you know, all of those things are required to be built for the offshore industry. And I'm just talking about Victoria. The rest of Australia is also looking at offshore wind. So there's going to be plenty of work coming up in the next couple of decades.
Tony, as we mentioned, you're the Vice Chair of the Gippsland Climate Network. You've been a coal worker for over 40 years and renewable energy advocate. So in all of your expertise, what's your thought on nuclear, which is certainly a hot topic of debate?
Yeah, look, nuclear's troublesome for Australia. There's a few reasons for that. The main one being we don't have social licence for it. It is a cleaner form of electricity production, but the fuel source is finite, and it's got a hazardous waste. And the biggest issue is that we don't have the social licence for it. It would probably take, in my opinion, it would take at least 15 years to build that capacity of social acceptance of nuclear, and by that time it'll be too late. We'll have renewables on the table by then. So I'm not opposed to nuclear, but I don't think it's going to fill any gap in the short term.
And you're also in favour of supporting other local renewable energy projects apart from the one that you've got in Latrobe Valley. Talk us through what is happening at the moment with solar farms, wind farms and the like across the country.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty hard to keep up with at the moment, to be honest. As I said, we've got over $30 billion worth of proposed projects just in Gippsland in Victoria. So across the country, it's absolutely crazy that the speed at which you've got things like the massive proposed solar farm up in the top of Australia that's called Sun Cable, that's going to run a cable to Singapore to provide power to them. So that's true export of renewable energy, and there is, you know, obviously Snowy 2.0 is happening. We've got proposals for another link between Victoria and Tasmania to build strength in the network, in the national grid. And look, that's a really important point about the national electricity grid. We need to invest heavily in that and upgrade the energy grid so that all these renewables can come in there. And that's going to be extremely expensive and possibly controversial for some of the transmission lines that need to be built and upgraded. So there's some issues to deal with, but it's a pretty exciting place. There's a lot of work going on, and there's going to be lots and lots of jobs in that.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. And so how do we stand in comparison to the rest of the world? I know, like, we are one of, if not the sunniest in the world. We've got great assets and so forth. How are we looking?
So we've got, in my opinion, the best renewable fuel source in the world. We've got plenty of wind, particularly offshore, and we've got heaps of sun. Our population's mainly around the coast of Australia, so there's potential for tidal and wave technology in the future. pumped hydro as storage. A lot of people think that it has to be, we have to dam rivers and all that sort of stuff. There's the potential to use salt water from the ocean to do pumped hydro. If you put a reservoir up on a cliff and you pump it up when you've got excess renewable energy and you let it go when you need the power and put it through a turbine. So there's real opportunity. Australia has such an advantage over other countries that are colder and darker than us, but we've got such huge potential, not only for our own electricity, but as I said before, to be able to be exporting renewable energy to the world.
Tony Wolfe, Vice Chair of Gippsland Climate Network, coal worker and renewable energy advocate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janie. Yeah, it was a pleasure.